I'm Denver Henderson with the Williams County Public Library Local History Center with the next section of our Lay Me Down to Rest, the Cemeteries of Williams County series. In this part of the series, we will be focusing on Pulaski Township. Now, Pulaski Township holds the county seat of Bryan, but it only contains 3 cemeteries: Fountain Grove, Old Pulaski Cemetery, and Beaver Creek, none of which, by the way, is the largest cemetery in our county. I'm standing here at the intersection of Portland and Center Streets, which was the site of the very first burial ground in Bryan. In 1840, when the town was founded, they decided that this rise, which was far from the city's business center, would be the perfect location for the burial ground. But what they couldn't realize is 20 years later, the town will expand. And just down Center Street here, there would be a brewery. Concern about the water level and the closeness of bodies to the center of town and the expansion of the population, it was decided that the burial ground would be moved from here to another location. Where to move the cemetery? Well, they founded the Cemetery Association, and finally they decided to move it from here to here. This is Fountain Grove Cemetery. When they moved it here in 1858, this was very far out of town. As a matter of fact, they considered it about a mile from the courthouse. Fountain Grove Cemetery Association met in February of 1858 and established the cemetery. The first burials were, of course, the bodies they took from the old burial ground that we just saw. They moved them all successfully by about 1859, or so they thought. According to Paul Van Gundy in Tales of the Fountain City, there are at least 4 people still buried somewhere underneath the intersection of Portland and Center Streets, but the majority of them came here to rest, and this became the central cemetery for Bryan, Ohio. Fountain Grove Cemetery has at least 3,000 burials in it, and at one time had a very beautiful decorative pond in the middle of it, fed by an artesian well. That well was capped off in 1966, and it is still, sometimes when the weather is particularly wet, at least in 1974, the well started springing forth again. So this is Fountain Grove Cemetery, probably one of my favorite cemeteries if you've ever followed us for the last 4 years in the Fountain Grove Cemetery tour of the Williams County Public Library. Buried here are such notables as Harry Sitz, who was the famous high dive performer, Charles Minor Lichty, who held the record for flagpole sitting here in Bryan in the late 1920s, A.M. Pratt, who helped on the commission to build the courthouse, was also a friend of President James Garfield, and many, many, many more notable people. Fountain Grove Cemetery continues to offer burial sites, and it has expanded to the west and continues to expand. Now, the first expansion, however, resulted in a lawsuit because the Cemetery Association acquired some land without telling the farmer who was going to plow the field that they had acquired it. They were sued and had to pay the farmer the equivalent of about $15,000 in today's money. So, and also the cemetery has been turned over to the city, so all of its ordinance, all of its governance is governed by the City Council by special ordinance. This is Fountain Grove Cemetery, the cemetery of Bryan, Ohio. I'm Denver Henderson. Stay safe, stay healthy. I bid you peace.